What was I talking about?
So for the remainder of the time we have with our friend here, I'm going to be using one of these exclusively. Join me next episode where I show you my favorite drawing app, Adobe Draw.
Oh yeah.
You too can draw.
There was probably a better order to do this. Welcome back to PRONOV. It's been a minute since I've done anything remotely related to digital doodling. A word that hasn't gotten even a little bit cooler since the last time I said it. Regardless though, I'm looking forward to getting back into Adobe Draw in particular, since I've had a lot of fun making stuff in it in the past. Drawings that were rough, that were less so, that were kinda pretty, and that I lack the words to explain. Also new to the equation is a little bit of editing magic. Now that I've updated my iOS, I've got access to the screen recording feature. Weird. Yeah, what I'm really surprised by is how long it took me to actually update it. Then again, I have a long history of taking way too long to update and back things up. Admittedly, I might keep it going, because that strikes me as one of those things that, you know, if you make it to 200 or 300, they might send you, like, a free MacBook, or a new iPhone, or an iPod from the backlog, or like a year's supply of apples, which I don't eat, to be honest, so that'd be a pretty bad prize for me. Every time I try to eat it, something in the skin makes my lips swell up, like I might have a mild allergy to it, and I'm not crazy about that. What I could do is make a profit off of the apples by gathering up each bulk that they send me and going to the Amish market. I'll be like, hey, you want to buy some apples from Apple? And they'll be like, oh, what do you mean, Pilgrim? And I'll be like, well, they're from the Apple company, the Steve Jobs ones that made those really revolutionary computers. Will be like, oh, we're not about that life, son. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, I guess I should have known. Let's go draw. Oh yeah, it's summer. I'm not wearing this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Sunk. So I'm gonna go ahead here and open up the app. Now, if you haven't already, if you haven't used this before, it's gonna ask you to make a username to go with your Adobe Cloud account. Now, this is a free username, and should you ever want to get the big boy versions that you use on the desktop, you're going to be getting them under that same username. Once that's all taken care of, you'll be brought to your projects page, and as you'll see here, I have many, and pretty soon, assuming you keep at it, so will you. Of course, before we ever get there, it's all going to start with that first step, and that first step can be found at the bottom right corner. This is the new project button. It's going to ask you to choose your format. For this, I'm going to go with something that's easy enough to fit into the confounds of our friend Mr. iPhone right here. So we're going to go with this top option, which I seem to find myself using most often. Letter or portrait. 300p. That sound of my brain vomiting just now is me trying to say 300 square pixels. Or pixels per inch. That's what PPI stands for. This is why I don't teach any languages of any kind. So this is our HUD. You can toggle in and out of this using the arrows at the top right corner right here. So over here we've got our brushes, 5 of them to be exact. I tend to use these first 2 the most just because they're the most straightforward. One's just your typical drawing tool. The other one's definitely a lot more inky, I guess. So it kind of thins out a bit at the ends. The other ones definitely have their own personality, and depending on the results you're trying to get, you might find that they end up being the thing that gets you that look that you want for your line work. Look at this here. I just made an abstract insignia. Yeah, all I gotta do is blow this up and put it in any museum of modern art, and everyone's gonna say, oh, it's beautiful. That just sums up the decay of art standards in the modern world. I'm a guy just like you, and that stuff is just for squares with money. There's no value in stuff like this. I'll leave it up to you to decide how ironic I'm being right now. Irregardless, though, I seem to have gotten a little carried away, which brings me to our last friend down here, the erase tool, which can be adjusted just like any of the brushes in size. Get this shit out of the way, and then we can go to town on this guy. Yeah, tally-ho. I'm having a gay old time right now. This is the main reason I draw, is to either make a monstrosity like that or just to fuck up so I can clean up the mess. Although, you know, the more time I spend away from my creation, the more I miss it. What am I going to do now that it's gone, you know? It's kind of depressing me. If only there was a way for me to undo what I have just done. Oh wait, you can. The 2 most important gestures when you're using this software are undo, where you take your 2 fingers and swipe it to the left. Fuck you, iPhone. Okay, so there goes my smooth transition. But yeah, you can do 2 finger gestures to adjust your canvas, either angular or scale-wise. But more importantly, you can swipe left and right to do your redos and undos. And this thing packs quite a memory, so you can actually do quite a few actions before you actually run out of things to return to. Although, in this case, when you're doing that shit, you gotta be really, really careful, because you can accidentally do a stroke that if you're trying to, like, go back and forth between multiple actions, you can, like, undo your redos, essentially, by accidentally doing a stroke. So if there was like 6 or 7 things back this way that you wanted to maybe try to go back to, well, I can't now. I'm actually glad I was able to make that mistake on camera, because that's something that I wouldn't have considered to tell you guys unless I fucking did it. So there you go. Try to avoid that. But to end on the brushes, in each brush selection, there's this little button down at the bottom here that allows you to get into the intricacies of the brush. So size, angles of your shapes, taper effects. At the end of the day, these 5 are just presets that kind of give you a basis for any adjustments you want to make. And then if you want to revert back to the original settings, you just hit reset brush and it gets back to it. You can mess with those settings through all of them should you want to adjust the character of your tools. Enough messing around though, let's get to it. The scariest part of the whole damn process. The blank page. The empty canvas. The ennui. The community college associate's degree. The oh-so-human existential nightmare of what in the name of Caesar's right testicle do I do now? Let's make a happy little smiley face. You know, because that's really hard to fuck up. So I'll select our basic round brush, reposition the canvas, and we'll start with the easiest part, the head. Shit, the head. Fuck the head. The head. Son of a bitch. I can do better. Okay, alright, kicking ass. Close that gap. Okay, so I'm a little rusty. So I'll go ahead, get this brush a little thicker, not too much, just a few points, a few clicks. Zoom in a little bit more, do it nice and gingerly. And then that way there's no surprises by the time you meet the 2 ends. See, that's not bad. I'm happy with that. Your shit's not gonna be perfect right away. That's true for everybody. Especially if you don't keep at it, like some people. We got ourselves a nice Nice, happy little head. What are you doing? What's he doing?
No, he's basically reading off his cue cards. I want my money back.
Well, joke's on you.
This show's for free.
I fucked up my mic. Hold on. All right, so we've got what's gonna be our head. I'm gonna go ahead and color this guy in. I've already got a nice yellow lined up over here on this other brush, although the opacity, by the looks of it, is kind of downed a little bit. So I'm gonna bring that up to 100, just so when I fill it in, it's not gonna be like a semi-transparent madness. I actually want a bit more of a neutral yellow, so I'm gonna click on that color, and it's gonna give me a few methods of picking the shade that I want. Oh, that. Yeah, don't worry about that. That's just a bit of a relic, a bit of a reminder of another chapter of my life. Maybe I'll talk about it in the future, but in the meantime, I want a slightly whiter shade of yellow, so I'm gonna grab the selector and drag it towards the middle, towards the white a little bit. Yeah, it's like a bit of a creamier yellow. A fleshy, creamy, whitey yellow. Kinda like me. There's so many layers to that joke. Biraciality. I don't know if that's a fucking word, but it's me. I just keep giving you reason after reason to click out of the fucking video. There, we've got our yellow. Then once we're back to the drawing, you just hold it on there and bam. Matt Groening's favorite color. Probably. I don't actually know. Oh shit. I just realized I haven't been screen capping this. Oh no! Oh, it's all fucked. All is for naught. This is why it's super important that I have two rigs at the same time, because I might lose part of the process. That's the main reason I'm doing it. I feel like if I had a solid enough way to just shoot the phone and the phone by itself, it'd be fine. But for reasons such as this shutting off or this shutting off, I at least have backups. It's like having two cameras. What was I doing? Circles. Incomplete circles. My point is, if I drew like a really half-ass shitty circle and didn't close this loop, and I tried to fill it in with the yellow, it wouldn't work. You get this little X mark with the fill bucket icon underneath. You need a closed loop in order to fill it in with colors. Like that. And this was indeed a closed loop, the head. So let's give this head some eyeballs. Now, theoretically, you could draw them like I just did, but I don't know. Given my track record with with circles so far in this, yeah, how horrified. I'm not gonna do you like that, my man. I'm gonna try to give it perfect circles. So I'm gonna go into the basic brush I currently have and just increase the crap out of the size, and then we just dab it. I might want it a little bigger than that. I'll dab it. And then just to kind of augment the face a little bit, I'll shrink it down a little bit more. Not too much, just enough to give a contrast, and put it over here. That way he's kind of... I want to lower that. I couldn't tell you what's off about it. I just know I don't like what I have right now. Although that's not bad. It's kind of like angled downward a little bit, but I might be able to fix that a little later. In the meantime, he's cute. He's a cute little bugger. He's got that mid-2000s indie flash game aesthetic. In fact, in a certain project, I might get away with just leaving him as a little blob with eyes, but I'm not going to do him like that. I'm going to give him a mooth. And in order to do that mooth, I'm going to go over to our tapered brush. I'm going to make the brush a little smaller in size. I want this black that I've been using, so I'm going to hold on to the blue under the color circle. Then I'm going to drag it to a part of the picture that has the color that I want. Case in point, this black. So now I'm going to zoom in where I want to drop the mooth, and let's see how it goes. I want something a little thinner. I'll go back, blip, and blip. You know what, I'm going to give it a bit more detail, so I'm going to shrink it down even more. Let's do like a, you know what, 0.5, the absolute minimum. Let's do it. We'll give it a little crease, a little dimple right there for details and stuff. Speaking of details, those eyes look a little dead. You ever look at a smiley coming at you, and he starts looking at you with those eyes, kind of like doll's eyes, all black and lifeless. Then he opens up the champa right there, and he rips you to pieces. Yes, line from one of my favorite movies. shark tail. Really though, those eyes look a little dead, so what I'm gonna do is go back to the basic. We're gonna get a nice white. And since we're on black, all I gotta do is drag this brightness bar or whatever the hell it's called. I'm sure it's probably called something else. We'll get it not all the way white, just kind of like a grayish off-white. We'll go back, shrink down our brush size a little bit more, and we're gonna add a glisten, a little shimmy sham. Maybe not that close to the edge, and I'll do 2 in each eye, just so it doesn't look like an inverse eyeball. It's like, oh, you can see the blacks of his eyes and his white pupil. That's wholesome. That's human. And there we go. Look at that. Shiny-eyed good boy. I'm gonna shrink it down, straighten out the canvas. Yeah, the face is a little augmented. Think I can fix that. So, what we just drew is its own little layer. So I'm going to click on this layer, which is already highlighted, which is why I'm able to draw. And it's gonna bring up this draw layer submenu. We're gonna hit this transform button, and that's gonna allow us to adjust it. I want it to be a little bit more head-on. No pun intended. That's not bad. And you can also just adjust the scale overall. And I guess, yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'll do that. Hit done, and there we go. We got a happy little face, guys. Might seem a little oversimplified, that's because it is. But, you know, all things are gonna start simple, especially if you're out of practice like me. This is the kind of thing you gotta keep doing over and over again, refining anything that you might flub on your first time around, or even your second or third or fourth time around. It's all a big learning process. I've drawn many a smiley face with this app, just as like a bit of a warm up and exercise for whatever it is I call my interest in doing things like this. And, you know, don't feel like you have to replicate what I did down to the letter. Like, play with different colors, play with different shapes, play with different facial structures. You gotta experiment with that kind of stuff, and in doing so, you're gonna more or less be able to define your own style, get your own personality into whatever it is you're drawing. Again, learning process. You think they went from the wheel to the pizza overnight, like right away? Nah. There's a whole awkward middle period where people were just eating rocks that they had rounded and already used for carts and stuff. It's like, hey, I want to eat it. And then some Italian schmuck with a mustache was like, no, you cannot, but I will help you find a way. And then he spent the next 40 years trying to develop something that could be eaten, but he failed. So his son and his son's son carried on the tradition until finally they're like, oh, cheese and tomatoes, those are the key. And this dough stuff, we got to stop using rocks. We need to use food in order to eat these wheels. Why did it take 4 generations for us to figure this out? I'm not a history major, but I feel like you probably knew that. Guys, we did it. Thank you for joining me on this so long overdue episode of PRONOV. For those of you who've been waiting around for this, sorry to keep you waiting, and sorry if it's a bit of a mess. I mean, maybe you're watching this and you're like, I got the sneaking suspicion that this guy might be a wreck who's having a really hard time doing this. I mean, you're entitled to feel that way, but what? Are you somehow implying that I'm such a fuck up when it comes to making videos that I might have already done this entire tutorial before realizing, hey, the phone's out of focus. Hey, I lost footage on this part. Hey, the screen capture is at a different frame rate for some reason, so I need to figure out a way to put it into the rest of the video so it's not inconsistent with the frame rate I'm using. Hey, I'm rusty in more than one way. Really though, jokes aside, thanks for watching. Join me next time, which hopefully will be not quite as long as the gap that was between this one and the last one. And we'll get a little bit more advanced with the pictures that you can draw with this thing. Till then, thanks for watching.